Staggering class realignment / shift in working class from Jeff Stein at Washington Post. Harris lost despite major shift of affluent voters her way. She, literally what I said about her hemorrhaging the base while simultaneously desperately trying to grab on to as many suburban Hitlerites as possible, happened. That's it. The base fell out. The bottom fell. That's what happens when you run around and go, I'm small business. I'm a small business. I love transnational gangs and prosecuting them. I love prosecuting small transnational gangs as a business. What am I going to do for the economy? Oh, don't worry. $50,000 in tax cuts if you want to start a startup. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Talk about how you are going to unleash Lena Khan on price gougers. Talk about how you're going to make the grocery stores scream bloody murder for the crime of price gouging. That's what people wanted. That's what they wanted. Yeah. This is the chart. She spent months courting Republican endorsements, writing the 2016 Clinton strategy to certain defeat. They risked it all to build a centrist party of suburbanites and college kids and lost. It's time to move on, but I don't think the Dems will move with us. Registered Republicans, shockingly, voted for Republicans. Kamala Harris saw Nikki Haley absolutely get demolished in the Republican primary and said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Nikki Haley, but with a D next to my name. 400,000 likes, by the way. This is not Kamala's fault. She worked her ass off to a beautiful campaign with 100 days she had. She's arguably the most qualified U.S. presidential candidate ever with prior experience in all three branches of the government. Americans simply voted against their best interest. Like, I don't disagree with some of the sentiment here, except for the major one, which is, yes, it is her fault. It is always the fault of the campaign. She had $1 billion. She had $1 billion and she lit it on fire. Shut the fuck up. What do you need? $2 billion? You want $3 billion? The fuck are these people talking about? Yeah, I don't want to say I told you so, but this run to the moderates looks like a spectacular failure. Lethal military, muscular border policy, and parading Liz Cheney didn't swing votes in Dems' favor and only worked to normalize Republican positions. And the bottom fell out. This kind of narrative needs to be crushed to death. It's neoliberalism all the way down. Neoliberalism must die for the Democratic Party to live. Yeah, the issue is the Republicans and the Democrats are both doing that. But the Republicans are at least communicating a right-wing populist sentiment. And populism works. When you do not trust the institutions, you want someone who
has a chance of defeating Joe Biden.
At least lies. You know what I mean? At least lies to you. And let me tell you, a lot of people are going to talk about mass deportations because that was the signature policy for the Trump campaign. They're going to say, how the f are undocumented migrants down for the mass deportation stuff? Like, it doesn't make sense. They must be stupid. They must be stupid as f. How the f is everybody down for undocumented migrants being mass deported? Adam Kinzinger tried to dunk you on this bullshit. How to guarantee a loss in 2028? That's amazing. I just don't understand how. Does he mean the strategy you're talking about is how to lose, or is he a dipshit? I know he's saying he's saying that like we didn't go hard enough on the muscular military shit. For the record, I want you guys to understand something. Number one, plenty of people are going to look to the results and say, we just didn't go far right enough. That is dumb. That is stupid. You are pushing away your base and you are hemorrhaging support from demographics that literally are anti-establishment and loved Bernie Sanders. This is very important. Key constituencies that loved Bernie Sanders are now completely lost. Young Latino men, young Latino voters in general, either don't vote or young Latino men straight up went to the Republican Party. That was the Bernie constituency. Young Arab men and Arab men in general, Arab women in general, either went to the Republican Party due to the Gaza shit or just didn't vote. These are people who were literally the Bernie bros, right? You were so resistant. You kept saying that they were misogynistic and you pushed them away into either not voting or even going, you know what? I actually wanted healthcare and none of this gay shit. I don't really care about the gay stuff at all, but I just want healthcare, into going, you know what? No one's giving me healthcare, but I still don't want the gay shit. At least this guy is representing the anger that I feel. I cannot comprehend how we have lost so many people. I mean, I can comprehend it. I know exactly how it happened, but I just cannot comprehend how the Democratic Party has not been responsive at all to this depolarization on racial boundaries. And another thing I want to point to, by the way, they chirped so much at black people, so much. What did they do? They were like, oh, there's a big swing for black men towards Donald Trump. I told you that that was going to be marginal in comparison to Latino men and, more importantly, white men without a college degree. White men without a college degree and Latino men without a college degree went by much larger numbers of the Republican Party than black men without a college degree. But that didn't stop the Kamala Harris campaign from activating O'Bungler to go out and be like, oh, well, seems like a lot of you black men are a little misogynistic and pussy too. You think that's a good message? Yeah. I'm glad that we spent a whole ordeal centering the narrative around how black people are too misogynistic. Fucking vote for a black woman. That was great. That was a great media opportunity. Great stuff. What did I tell you? I told you that shit was bunk. It was nothing. It was ridiculous to hyper focus on black men, which was going to be a sliver, much smaller percentage regardless. Despite all that chatter, Trump didn't really gain with black voters nationwide. 86% Harris, 12% Trump. Unchanged from 2020 when 87% of black voters went for Biden and 12% went for Trump. Black men statistic, 78 to 20 in 2024, 79 to 19 in 2020. 1%. It drove discourse for a week. 1%. I said it. I told you. This was bunk. It was bullshit. It was just a permission structure for white liberals to just shit on black people again. Okay? And that's precisely what the fuck happened for no reason. It is terrifying to watch the Democratic Party just like hemorrhage its fucking base and refuse. Make no mistake. They are the idealists. They are the idealists. The liberals at the tippy top of the Democratic Party are ideologically committed to a dead movement. Neoliberalism has failed. Tacking to the right over and over again has failed. And yet, win or lose, they go, we just got to go to the right. We just got to get more racist. No lessons learned whatsoever. It does not matter to them. That is why they ran a dogshit campaign in spite all signs pointing to major flaws. How many times did I show you 30 plus polls that were conducted on separating Kamala Harris from Joe Biden on Gaza and how beneficial that would be? The margin of enthusiasm would make up for the percentage point of loss that Kamala Harris had in every single swing state, every single one. Just on that issue alone, you lost 0 voters if you changed trajectory on Gaza, and you only stood to gain voters if you changed trajectory, even on the communications front. It would have been a hard thing to explain to people that you were going to be different than your administration that you're a part of. It's not being a single issue voter. There are plenty of people who are single issue voters, however, on this matter. Dear White staffers is calling for campaign workers to leak the mismanagement. Like, your ground game does not matter if the top line communication is bunk. You cannot outflank the campaign. You can't lie to people when you're door knocking and be like, no, Kamala Harris is for Medicare for all. When you're door knocking, you can't turn around and just like lie to people about what the campaign actually represents. If the campaign is saying these are our talking points, if the campaign is saying we are going to be the civility party, we're going to be the defenders of the institutions, and that's your like overall communication to voters, that's the thing that you are presenting to voters as the reason for why they must vote for you, people are not going to touch that. And last but not least, of course, one of the biggest problems was Joseph Robinette Brandon. Prem Tucker is completely right. Why vote for a diet Republican when you can vote for the real thing? Do you think it's just a Palestine situation? From what I heard, is the suburban white men that didn't show up. No, it's not just a Palestine situation. That's just another glaringly obvious flaw from the campaign that shows me and everyone else that's paying close attention that they didn't have the votes to lose, and yet they were acting like it was fine, that they could win without them, that they could win without these votes. Here's the poll on the matter. In Pennsylvania, 34% of respondents said they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic nominee if the nominee vowed to withhold weapons to Israel, compared to 7% who said they would be less likely. The rest said it would make no difference. In Arizona, 35% said they'd be more likely, while 5% said they'd be less likely. And in Georgia, 39% said they'd be more likely, also compared to 5% would be less likely. Now, this doesn't mean that like 34% of people that responded that they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic Party weren't going to vote, and now they are definitely voting. That doesn't mean that at all. But in those massive margins, you have to recognize that there is at least a 5 to 6% swing in your direction because the war is deeply unpopular by Americans. And it's not the only poll. There was like 30 plus issue polls that showed this reality. Emma retweeted this. My takeaway from the results, it looks like America has shifted right a lot. Some of this has to do with the frustrations over inflation, sure, but I think there's more here. Democrats have been running campaigns the old-fashioned way, and I think we acknowledge that it's not cutting it. We raise money like crazy, mop the floor, Republicans and voter contact efforts, get out the vote, operations, and advertising. We also get way more major endorsements, but at the end of the day, it barely makes a difference. Most voters get their news through social media, and on social platforms, we were getting washed. Since 2015, Republicans have been building up their infrastructure to control the airwaves, and right now they do. Their content gets more impressive. Impressions on nearly every platform. That's true. All of this stuff is true. I've been saying this. I've been ringing the alarm bells about this shit too. But you have to remember, it's not that the country is moving to the right. Please make no mistake. On every single issue poll, every single one, when faced with two options, mass deportation or mass amnesty wins. It's got majority approval. So why is the Democratic Party not showing that? People say trans-panic stuff is really, really good. The anti-trans messaging is really successful. It's a massive banger. It's a really good way to campaign. 64% of the population think trans people are being discriminated against unfairly. It is not like it is what you see in the media. What you see in the media and what is represented in the media is not the reality on the ground. That is precisely the reason why a faceless, lifeless ballot measure that, if communicated by Democrats, would be considered a radical one, like increasing the minimum wage to $15, passes in a state like Missouri. That's it. Abortion protections are massively popular in states where Democrats lose by 10 points. How? I thought America wasn't progressive. I thought they hated progress. How is that possible? Perhaps it is because the Democrats are so scared for pushing. If Trump wins, there'll be efforts to blame Russia interference or Harris or Biden, etc. That's all fair, but we need to be clear-eyed that a huge swath of America likes what Trump is selling, transphobia, mass deportation. That's what he ran on, and here we are. No, dude. No. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a reason for this, okay? I'll give you a reason for this. Here's what I mean. There are tens of thousands of people in this community that voted for Kamala Harris. Do you agree with Kamala Harris's policies across the board? Do you? No, of course you don't. No, of course you fucking don't. And there are plenty of Republicans that either aren't paying attention or don't give a about any of this either. And they just think, oh, he's going to fix the economy. And they're dumb enough to think that that is, going to happen with Donald Trump. That's it. That's it. The idea that like everyone is hyper tuned to every single part of the campaign's messaging. And that's what they're so excited to go out and vote for Donald Trump because they all want concentration camps at the border is stupid. It literally does not track with reality. It does not track with the messaging polls on this. And you'll see it when he starts the mass deportations. You'll see how angry people get because one, what do I always say? Americans don't understand the policies that they're either voting for or just don't think about it at all. They just don't know how bad it's going to be. And that is a flaw on the counter messaging side from the Democratic Party. They never once communicated that all this border shit was bunk, that it was all born out of right-wing panic, hysteria. You think it's an accident that every 2 years, whenever there's a midterm or a general election, there's a caravan that comes out of nowhere? They pulled that ripcord over and over again. You know they're going to do it. Show me the clip, chat. You know the one I'm talking about. 2021, when Biden started going against the anti-immigrant rhetoric. I said this. I said that this was going to be a massively consequential problem for the Democratic Party. You know the one I'm talking about. All the way back in April 2021, when historians look back at this election, they're going to see this moment as the one that solidified the victory for Trump. Yeah, radical progressive, according to Dems, Tlaib had nearly double what Harris had for voters in Dearborn. In Dearborn, Rashida Tlaib did nearly twice as well as Kamala Harris. Speaking of Rashida Tlaib, I'm going to be having her on the broadcast on Friday, I believe. Yeah, Harris says there's not much she'd have done differently than Biden over the last 4 years. What a baffling concept. Where are my linkers at? This was what happened in No Kids in Cages from February 24th, 2021. The Biden administration seems to be going back to some of their promises regarding immigration reform. Anyway, the point is, a lot of people will turn around and say, Hasan, hindsight is 2020. This is not hindsight. This is foresight. This is just sight. It's not hindsight. That's copium. If you say it's hindsight, you're wrong. There are plenty of people who saw this ahead of time, myself included. And the only reason why I was there correctly pointing to this, despite the fact that I'm not Alan Lichtman, nor do I have goddamn keys, is because I understand how this shit works. I've been following politics for years and years and years and years. I look at messaging polls. I look at issue polls on the matter. They are conducted on a regular basis. It's not about some bunk methodology. Just understand that Americans are of two different minds on the same issue always. American voters, the median voter, believes in a sea of contradictory opinions that are sometimes directly at odds with one another. That's why when you poll people on the issue of immigration, right, 60% will say, I want mass deportation. And then 60% will say, I actually want mass amnesty. I want conditional amnesty. It's your fault for listening to a dude with a Justin Bieber haircut who's like 70 years old if you thought that he had some brilliant insight into how this stuff works. I don't discount it. I mean, everyone was desperately looking for hopium. That's why a lot of like more liberal commentators, more centrist commentators were popping off in the lead up, in the build up to this election cycle. But I hope that people will understand that looking for copium and looking for hope is not going to lead you down the correct path. You are going to be going to be deluded. Too soon to shit on the keys now. Real key heads are mourning right now, brother. I apologize.